Welcome to From the Porch. I am Shannon Berkelback, and I'm honored today to be with a judge, Mr. David Gunn,
Howdy.
Judge David Gunn. And he has been appointed by Governor Abbott for one of the appeals courts and will be in your election in November. So I'm excited to get to be on a porch here and actually in Pattison, Texas at Patty's Diner. We're here, we've met at candidate forums and gotten to know each other. And so I wanted you guys to get to know him too and just to get to know who I hope is going to be your appeals court judge. So,
Well, it's mutual. I am excited to get to know you, and I've learned more from you about Waller County than I thought possible. I've learned more about Waller County than any of the counties. We've got 10 together, and our 10-county region that our Court of Appeals sits on has more people than any of our neighboring states. More than New Mexico, more than Arkansas, more than Oklahoma, and more even than Louisiana. So we're talking many millions of people. We could be our own state. We've got about 10,000 square miles of land space. Not quite as big as Massachusetts, but close. Certainly bigger than some of the small New England states. So this is a big region, and it's got diverse economies. The economy in Galveston County is very different from the economy in Waller County or Grimes County and so on. So we are kind of a big world, and I'm trying to get out and meet folks, so really pleased to be with you and listen with your listeners.
I know you said it's been hard to kind of get to know people, but you said you really know. I've interviewed farmers and police department, just all kinds of different mechanics. You said it's just interesting to see all the diversity, and it is. We love our county. So, what is the reason you even got into maybe law or something? What is your passion here?
I got into law. I won't say by accident because I don't believe in accidents, but I was planning to be an engineer, and I went off to be a chemical engineer, and I loved the classroom, and I loved science and so on, but it turns out I did not love the laboratory. My molecule and we fell out of love. We just wanted to be friends, and I said to my advisor, you know what, I don't really want that PhD after all. Let me just stop with my master's degree and take a different track. So he said, yeah, I kind of think that's right. This was up at MIT, up in Boston. Wonderful learning, and if I could have just stayed in the classroom for the rest of my life, I might have done that. But God had a different plan, and so I've ended up in the law, and it doesn't, for me, have the wondrous insights that you get from science and learning about creation. What on earth is going on with the people traveling around the moon, or can we go to Mars, and how are the stars arranged? I mean, there's no end of questions there that we all had at age 4 and 5, and I'll never get over those. But we have to have a society that functions, and so having a legal system that works for us is something worth promoting. And so that's where I have ended up, and it's been a great calling. We all think about terms like justice, but what does it actually mean to real people? And that's what I'm in the business of. And so that's my goal, is to continue doing that. We do it every day at the court. I want to try and do that for the next and final chapter of my career as a lawyer.
Mm-hmm. So what are your favorite kind of cases? I know you see probably diversity. Maybe give us an idea of some of the ones you...
Shannon, we've got just about everything. We've got murder, arson, assault, drug possession. So criminal cases of every type, every crime you could imagine, we've got it. But it's not just that. There's car wrecks, train wrecks. If a plane crashes, we would have that. There's plenty of broken promises. So some people talk about broken bones and broken promises. We get a lot of that. We get, sadly, a lot of family cases. Those are the heartbreakers. The divorce cases, there are no winners in divorce cases.
Right.
It's just a question of who loses the most. We get termination of parental rights, which are just gut-wrenching cases. Maybe dad's in prison and mom's on drugs, and you worry about that little 2-year-old or 3-year-old, and you say, we've got to find the right home. On the other hand, you got to worry about the parents' rights. You can't just have a nanny state coming in and taking people's kids away.
Right.
That is gut-wrenchingly hard. We have those.
And that's what we appreciate, that you really are making sure you follow the law, protect all the people, all the sides.
We try really hard. You can come to my court. Anybody can come. It's the most beautiful building, smack dab in the middle of downtown Houston. And we all pay for it as Texas taxpayers. You don't need a ticket. It is grand and majestic where we have the appeals court arguments. You can watch them online, but it's worth coming to see. Our courthouse has been discovered. They tell me that the Olympic gymnast, Simone Biles, did her wedding pictures there. That went viral, as you can imagine, with that generation. And everybody now wants to get married. Every time I come out to go to lunch, there's weddings taking place in the rotunda
funny.
with the beautiful stained glass and so on. So it's worthwhile. And I mention all that because it's not a place where you have the high drama. Objection, Your Honor, and bailiff, lock them up. That's not the way it works. Those are trial courts. The Court of Appeals is a little bit more like a library. It's a little bit more where we do the instant replay review of what happened in the trial. If something went off the tracks in the trial and the judge just had a bad day, that's what we come in and do. So when you watch a baseball game and somebody says, I want to challenge that call, that's what we are. We're like the replay team. It doesn't have the drama, but you've got to have it because everybody listening has had that experience of picking up the newspaper and saying, that trial judge did what? That's crazy. That's what we are there for. We're there to fix the crazy.
Protect us from the crazy.
And there's a
Thank
fair
you.
amount of crazy out there.
I've seen some of it, so I appreciate it.
What we get from Waller County is pretty good.
I hope so.
But there's some crazy from other areas, and it's hard. You just got to keep an eye on it. The voters don't want to pay for a large legal staff of lawyers to work for all these trial judges. So some of the trial judges have a hard job because they don't have help. It's just like, what's the old saying, one ranger, one riot. That is kind of what trial judges have. And so sometimes it's coming so fast, they make mistakes, and we're there to say, no, you can't
Slow
do
down,
that.
let's fix this.
That's exactly right.
Cool.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Well, we talked a little bit about you meeting your wife in church, just like I met my husband in church, but can you tell me a little bit more about your faith?
Yeah, so I grew up in a Baptist family. They did something for me that was actually very helpful. They sent me to first a Baptist elementary school, then a Lutheran junior high. And it was a different set of traditions, and I got to know the folks there and thought, I really like these people, and I like the way they do things. Then I went to an Episcopal junior high, and by the time I was done, I thought, you know what? Getting to know your Christian faith can have multiple dimensions, and you can appreciate somebody who comes from a different tradition and say, hey, there's something beautiful in that. So that's kind of been my journey, and now I feel reasonably fluent in a lot of different dialects of Christianity. But of course, in our 10-county region with 7, 8, 9 million people, we've got folks of all different religious traditions. And we can make a system work for everybody. The First Amendment can work for everybody. We can have a society where the same rules, everybody's got the same freedom of religion, freedom of speech, whatever it is. Now, we can still pass laws that say, well, we want to have a rule about a speed limit or how much alcohol you can have in your system. And, and I'm sorry, if you don't like that, we're just going to have a majority vote. But that's kind of where I've come from.
Yeah, sounds like you've had lots of perspective, though, which you need when you're in court, to be able to see both sides and to be able to step back and say, okay, I've experienced this in my life, and now I can make a really good, sound decision.
Well, that's right. Travel to some other countries, and you'll see that they'll have a different approach, perhaps, and you'll go to places that have a state religion. We had some friends that moved to Switzerland, and we went to visit them, and they said they made a mistake when they got there. The paperwork said, what religion are you? And they checked a box, and then they got a bill in the mail. It was a tax bill to pay for the upkeep of the churches of that particular denomination. And they said, we should have checked atheists. They wouldn't have charged us anything. It wouldn't have been true. But we don't have that here, right? It's voluntary. And so I think the American tradition has done a good job of striking a balance of saying, we're going to recognize that it's a religious country and people have a right to live their faith, but we're going to try to give some breathing space to folks that see it a different way, and hopefully not get into too much friction between people.
Right. And I'm just passionate about truth, so that's why I always want to sit down with you guys and share your story, but also just truth. And kind of why we're at this meeting tonight is we want to get out the vote for our runoff election on May 26th, but also in November. We want to make sure we get the Republicans out to vote specifically.
Participation is crucial.
Yes.
Our system works best when everybody participates. If we had higher voter turnout, you wouldn't have crazy swings. And, you might have to make some compromises, but we can make that work. Yeah. Participation is crucial. So, we got to get the vote out. Yeah.
And just so that you understand that your vote matters, especially locally. For me, you can win by 10 votes. I know you have a larger amount of things, but just for people to be educated on why it matters, why their voice matters. I mean, think about the decisions right now in November. We have a Democrat versus you, and I'd much rather have you making those decisions if I have to be in front of you.
Well, and there are waves. You can get a sweep in a 10-county region like ours, but you can also have a photo finish. 6 years ago, it was a photo finish, and there were 2 members of the Democratic Party who prevailed and 2 members of the Republican Party who prevailed in the same region. So we're talking very close. The closest race with more than 1 million votes cast was something like 1,000 vote difference. I mean, teeny tiny. So it does matter. Participation matters, and we know that Texas asks a lot of people to say, we want you to learn all these races for judge of folks you maybe have never met. So it's a responsibility to get educated and tell people you can't just sit this one out. You've got a duty to get involved. Just like a soldier has a duty to go to war when we go to war, citizens have a duty to participate.
Yeah, and I pray that you will do that, and to remember that Shannon Berkelback has your back, and then David Gunn is here to protect you.
My campaign team told me, he said, with your last name, Gunn, we just wish you were running for the legislature. I said, I know you could do something for me. That's not who I am. I served for 7 years on city council in my little West Side city in the Houston area. 7 years was enough, let's just say. I'm cut out for a different kind of service. It's hard being on a city council or a county commissioner's court. I mean, you get complaints and you don't get much credit. You get a lot of blame. And if the rain comes and there's a flood, guess who gets blamed?
Right.
And so you need to plan to do it. I enjoyed the 7 years, but I enjoyed even more saying, thank you very much. It's time to do something else. I am now enjoying the job at the Court of Appeals. I loved practicing law. I had a wonderful law practice. Everything went right. But this is a new chapter. And Shannon, I want our kids to have a functional society like we had growing up, where you can walk down the street. You don't have to lock your bike. You don't have to lock your car or your door. You have a little more confidence than sometimes we have in some of our neighborhoods. I want a court system that works for people, where they can come in and see what's going on, walk into a hearing and watch it, where it doesn't take 10 years to get a case done, where they don't have to go bankrupt to pay for their lawyers. So we're going to try to promote that kind of system. Progress is slow, but it's worth striving for.
Well, thank you for your service and the many years you have, and hopefully many more to come. And I'd love for you guys to share this podcast throughout the county. If you have people in these other 10 counties, I want to mention what they all are. So if anybody's there, to share with their friends.
We've got Austin, Brazoria, Colorado County, Fort Bend, Grimes, Harris, Waller, Washington, Chambers. Very diverse area, so very, very large, and I'm confident I'll see y'all around from here to
November, vote Republican, and you can find his name, Judge David Gunn. So again, share with your neighbors so we can educate everybody. Thanks, guys.